Okay, good evening, students. Welcome to week 2, day 3. Today we are going to discuss qualitative versus quantitative research methods, right? And let us do a quick review of what we did on day 1 and day 2. Day 1 was research fundamentals. Then day 2 was research methods we have discussed. Largely we have discussed what is experimental research, and then validity, then descriptive research, what are the different type of descriptive research, then historical research. So today we'll be discussing more to the data, type of data or approach, the measurement scales. Then largely we'll be discussing qualitative versus quantitative methods, detailed comparison and application, right? So after today's session, you will be able to distinguish between qualitative and quantitative research, understand when to use each approach, learn the data collection technique for both methods, understand mixed methods research, master sampling techniques, and you will be applying all these concepts to solve the UGC NET questions for paper 1. So, and also we will be having many examples from economics. So, to start with, what is quantitative research? Quantitative research, basically it uses numerical data and statistical methods to test hypothesis and establish relationship. Okay, and what are the characteristics of quantitative research? First of all, quantitative research, in quantitative research, the emphasis on numbers and measurement. It uses statistical analysis, it tests hypothesis deductively, and is basically applied for large sample sizes, and it is very objective and structured. And when you seek generalization from sample data, we use quantitative research. And the philosophical foundation is rooted in positivism and post-positivism, which we discussed in the day 1. So question is when to use quantitative research. So basically in quantitative research, it tries to answer the research questions, basically how many, how much, to what extent, and what is the relationship between X and Y, does X cause Y, is there a difference between groups. So this kind of research question it tries to answer. So it is best used when we need to measure variables, we want to test hypothesis, we need statistical evidence, we want to generalize to population, and when we are trying to study the large groups and we need objective data. Next, we'll start with the deductive approach. First of all, we start with the theory and then develop hypothesis, test with the data, and after the result or discussion of the result, then either we will confirm or reject the hypothesis. And then it is basically another dimension of the quantitative research is it is a structured design, it is a predetermined questions, and statistical analysis we try to follow like this: descriptive statistics, inferential statistics. In descriptive statistics we basically try to give a basic statistical summary. Then in inferential statistics we try to do various tests, and then in correlation analysis also we try to do it. Then what are the different quantitative research methods? Already we know that experiments where we can manipulate the independent variable and measure the dependent variable. There is a random assignment, control groups, it establishes the causation. Then we can use the survey and questionnaire method, where the questions are structured and there are fixed responses, and for the large samples, so basically it is descriptive or correlational studies. Then other research methods include structured observations, which is basically predefined categories, and it is frequency counts, systematic recording. So also in quantitative research methods, largely where we use also in our dissertations that which involves secondary data analysis. Like for example GDP, inflation, all these data which is already existing, various macroeconomic indicators. So those are part of the quantitative research methods. Then what are the quantitative data collection techniques? Largely we use close-ended questions like multiple choice or Likert scale 1 to 5 rating, yes or no questions, ranking questions. Then second one is scales and instruments, rating scales, standardized tests, then measurement tools. And also we try to use some administrative records like government statistics, economic data like GDP, inflation, census data. Then to start with, let's say that what is a quantitative study? Let's say that a research question is what is the relationship between education level and income in India? So the quantitative approach is how you will be trying to solve this research problem. Basically, you can follow the survey method, and you can do the sample 5,000 adults randomly selected. Variables, what are the variables? Education, because education is years of schooling you will be taking. Again, that is a numerical measure. Then income, annual income in rupees, that is also numerical. So what kind of analysis you will be doing? Correlation, regression. Suppose you will get, it's a hypothetical result. Suppose you got the correlation is 0.65 or is just one statement it is given. Each additional year of education associated with 8% increase in income, that will come from the regression analysis. Now the strength is, can we generalize the entire population with statistical confidence? So now we should know what are the strengths and limitations of quantitative research. So the strengths are objective, it should be unbiased, it should be based on the large sample, generalizable, replicable, it should have statistical rigor, it can test causation, and it should have quick data collection, then precise measurements. Then limitation, it includes superficial understanding, it misses the context, it cannot explore why, there is a limited flexibility, it may oversimplify, it ignores the meanings, so researcher bias in the design. Then next is, what is qualitative research? Qualitative research explores meanings, experience and social phenomena through non-numerical data. The core characteristics are emphasis on words and meanings and experience. It uses thematic analysis. It explores and generates theories inductively. It is basically based on small and purposive samples. It is subjective and flexible. It seeks deeper understanding. So the philosophical foundation for qualitative research is rooted in interpretism or constructivism. So next is in qualitative research, when we should use qualitative research? If we have a research question, why, how, what does it mean, what are the experiences, how do people make sense of, what is the process? So it is best used when we are trying to explore the new areas, understanding the lived experiences, to study the complex phenomena, and where we need depth over breadth. Context is important, we need new theories. In qualitative research, what are the key features? Inductive approach, it starts with observation, it identifies patterns, it develops theories, and it is basically bottom-up reasoning. It is also based on flexible design, that is open-ended questions. Then interpretive analysis, basically it is based on thematic coding, pattern identification, rich description, multiple perspectives. So what are the different qualitative research methods? In-depth interviews, one-to-one conversation, open-ended questions. The second one is focus group discussion, where the group discussions involve 6 to 10 people. It explores shared perspectives, interactive dynamics. Then observations, basically participant observations, where it involves field notes, natural setting, and the document analysis like text, diaries, letters, and so on. Now What are the different qualitative data collection techniques? First one is open-ended questions, like where you ask, like, tell me about your experience, how do you feel about, can you describe. The interview types, structured interview where you have already fixed questions, then semi-structured where you guide with flexibility, unstructured where it is conversational mode. So recording methods: audio video recording, field notes, transcripts, reflective journals. So one example, like qualitative study, where the research question is like, for example, how do unemployed youth in rural India experience and cope up with unemployment? So if you are following a qualitative approach, so the method, let's say that you are following in-depth interviews. Suppose you will be doing sample of 25 unemployed youth, that's a purposive sampling. Data collection, you will be taking 1 to 2 hour interview. Then you will be asking open-ended question about experiences. Then audio, you will be recording the audio and transcribed. So what kind of analysis you will be following? You will be following a thematic analysis. Result will be identified themes, loss of dignity, family pressure, coping strategy, or migration consideration. This might be results. Now the strength of qualitative studies, it is rich, deep understanding of lived experiences. So what are the strengths and limitations of qualitative research? So strengths includes deep understanding, rich detailed data, it captures the context, it is flexible and adaptive, and it explores why, it generates theories, it studies the meanings, and it is done in a natural setup. And the limitation is, it is not generalizable, and it is sometimes, it is based on small samples, and it is time consuming, subjective, and it is hard to replicate. There might be researcher bias, and it is difficult analysis, there is no causation. Now, how you can compare qualitative versus quantitative? The purpose, you can analyze based on purpose, data type, sample size, sampling, research design, and question. Quantitative, it tests hypothesis, and data type are basically numbers and statistics. Sample size is large, sampling is random and representative, research design is structured and fixed. So basically the questions are close-ended. In qualitative research, the purpose is to explore, to understand the meaning. The data types which are used is words, image, text. Sample size will be very small. Sampling will be purposive and theoretical. Research design will be flexible and emergent. Questions will be open-ended questions. Then, on the aspect of analysis, reasoning, generalization, objectivity, setting, and then results, you can differentiate. In quantitative, we use statistical test, but in qualitative, we use thematic coding. In quantitative, we use deductive reasoning from theory to data, but in qualitative, we use inductive reasoning from data to theory. Generalization, in quantitative research, yes, to population we try to generalize. In qualitative research, no. We do from theory and concept. We try to develop the theory and concept. So objectivity, it is objective and neutral, but qualitative research, it is subjective and interpretive. Then setting is basically it is controlled and structured setting, but in qualitative it is done in a natural setting or field setup. And the results which you will get in quantitative is numbers, tables, graphs, but in qualitative you will get narratives, quotes, and themes. Now, when to use quantitative versus qualitative? You will be using quantitative research when you want to test specific hypothesis, to measure variables, to find relationship, to generalize findings, use large samples, get some statistical proof, replicate studies. Suppose, for example, survey on the poverty rates. Many of the students are pursuing their dissertation in this area. So you are doing basically a quantitative research. But if you are trying to adapt to qualitative research, then when you will be applying qualitative research, when you are trying to explore new areas, to understand experiences, to study complex issues, to generate theories, to get deep insights, to understand why, and to study the context. Suppose, for example, interview on the poverty experience. So, it is very clear when we will be using quantitative research and when we will be using qualitative research. Now, how both of these approaches are related to the research paradigms. Quantitative, the paradigm which are follows is positivism and post-positivism. So basically, the beliefs of quantitative research is reality is objective, it can be measured, it seeks universal laws, and it values objectivity. The methods which we use is experiment method, survey method, and statistical method. But in qualitative, the paradigm which we follow is interpretivism and constructivism. The beliefs are reality is constructed, multiple reality may possible. It seeks understanding, it values subjectivity. The methods are interviews, observations, and thematic analysis. Next is, what is mixed method research? Mixed method research combines both quantitative and qualitative approach in a single study. The rationale is it provides more complete understanding. Quantitative means breadth, how many, how much. Qualitative is depth, why and how. And triangulation is basically validate the findings, and it is complementarity is basically different aspects. The core principle is qualitative and quantitative methods are complementary, they are not competing with each other. Now, what are the different mixed method designs? First one is convergent or parallel design. It collects quantitative and qualitative data simultaneously. It analyzes separately, then merge results, and also equal priority to both. In sequential explanatory design, quantitative first and then qualitative second, and in qualitative explains quantitative findings. Example, survey followed by interviews. So sequential exploratory design, where the qualitative is first and then quantitative is second. So qualitative explores and quantitative test. Example, interviews to develop survey. Now, research question is like where we will be using, let's say that one example of mixed methods. Suppose the research question is what factors affect the student dropout rates in Indian schools. So we will be using mixed method approach, which is sequential explanatory. Means phase 1, you will be doing a quantitative study, that is the survey of 2000 students across 50 schools. Measure, you will be doing you will be measuring socio-economic status, distance, family size, and you will be finding distance and poverty, which is strongly correlated with the dropout ratio. In phase 2, you will be doing qualitative study, where you will be interviewing the 30 dropout students and explore why distance and poverty lead to dropout, and to find transportation cost, need to work, family priorities. So what you are doing is basically you are integrating the statistics plus stories to complete understanding. So mixed methods are followed largely. So now let's try to understand what are the strengths and challenges of following following mixed methods of research. So strengths are comprehensive view, which include breadth and depth. It validates findings, stronger evidence, it answers complex questions, it balances weakness. Challenges are time consuming, it is expensive, it requires multiple skills, complex analysis, integration difficult, it may conflict. So the best practice is mixed methods. Now consider the best practice for complex social research when resource permit. Now next we will be doing discussing sampling. Okay, let me see. So we are almost 1 second. Yeah. So what is sampling? Sampling is the process of selecting a subset or sample from a larger group, that is population, for the study. Why we need sample? Because we cannot study entire population because of lack of cost, time, feasibility. So sample represents population. It allows generalization. So these are the key terms. First is population, sample, and sampling frame. So population is the entire group of interest. Sample is the subset selected for the study. Sampling frame is list of all population members. Sampling error is the difference between the sample and population. Then largely there are two types of probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So probability sampling methods involves the definition is every member of the population has known non-zero probability of selection. So basically simple random sampling, each member has equal chance, like lottery, you draw the names from hat. So example, random number table also we use in case of simple random sampling. Then in second systematic sampling, where we select after in every kth member, example every 10th student from the list, and then we calculate the k, that is population. How we will calculate k? Population divided by the sample size. So it is used in quantitative research for generalization. Next is stratified random sampling, where we divide the population into strata like groups, and then we take random sample from each stratum. Then we ensure representation of subgroups. Example, sample by income groups, basically low, middle, high. And in cluster sampling, we divide population into cluster, usually geography. Then we randomly select clusters. We study all members in selected clusters. Example, select 10 villages randomly, study all households. In multi-stage sampling, we combine, that is a combination of methods in stages. Like for example, we select the states, then district, then village and households. Then in non-probability sampling methods, basically the definition is the selections are based on the non-random criteria, where not every member has an equal chance of getting selection. So here what are the different methods? First is convenience sampling. We select whoever is easily available. Example, we survey students in your class. Then in this case, it will be highly biased. And then purposive or judgmental sampling, where the researcher selects based on judgment. We select information rich cases. Example, interview successful entrepreneurs, which is used in qualitative research. Then quota sampling, like stratified but non-random selection within strata. It sets quotas for subgroups. Like example, interview 50 men and 50 women, that is non-randomly selected. Then fourth is snowball sampling. Participants recruit other participants. Example, interview one drug user, then ask them to refer others. Is used for hard to reach population. Fifth is volunteer and self-selection. Participants volunteer themselves. Example, online survey, anyone can participate. So basically they are used qualitative research and exploratory studies. Then let's try to understand the difference between the probability versus non-probability sampling based on few aspects like selection, generalization, bias, cost, and used in and type of example. In case of probability sampling, the selection is random, generalization is S to population, bias will be low, cost will be higher. It is used in quantitative research. Example is simple random sampling. And in non-probability sampling, the selection is non-random, generalization is not limited, it is not there, it is limited. Bias is very high, cost will be also lower. Used in qualitative research. Examples is purposive sampling. The choice depends on research purpose, resources, population accessibility. Now to determine the sample size, factors affecting sample size for quantitative research, we need population size, desired confidence level. Usually we set up at 95%. Margin of error is usually 5%. Then population variability, then available resources. For qualitative research, saturation stops when no new information emerges. Typically it is 5 to 50 participants. It depends on the research question's depth. So general guidelines is basically in case of quantitative research, larger is better. It is like between 100 to 1000. But in qualitative, smaller but information rich. Like it should be between 5 to 50. Now let's discuss about the data collection technique. So largely we have two type of data collection technique: primary data collection and secondary data collection. So primary data collection, we need like what are the different options we are having or methods. So one is survey and questionnaires, interviews, observations, experiments, and focus group discussion. And in secondary data collection, government publications, academic databases, report and statistics, and then historical documents. But the choice how we'll be collecting the data depends upon the research question and methodology and resources. First, surveys and questionnaires. So the definition is structured. It is a structured set of questions for self-administration or interviewer. The type of question is close-ended questions, which are fixed response options like multiple choice, yes or no, rating scales. It is easy to analyze and quantitative. And in open-ended question, it is basically free text responses. Like for example, what do you think about? Especially it is rich in data and qualitative. And administration methods is basically self-administered, like for example, mail or online. Or interviewer administered method is face-to-face or telephone. It is best for large samples and standardized data. Interviews definition is direct conversation between researcher and participant. The type of interviews are structured, especially fixed questions, same order, but in semi-structured, it is guided with flexibility to prove. Unstructured, it is conversational and exploratory. Advantage is it can probe deeply, it clarified questions, it build rapport. There are non-verbal cues. Disadvantages are time consuming, interviewer bias, limited sample size. Then observation. What are the different type of observations are there? Like you can use this as a method of. So participant observation, like where the researcher becomes part of the group. It is there is an insider perspective. Like for example, living in community. In non-participant observation, the researcher observes from outside. It is more objective. Example, observing classroom from corner. Then structured versus unstructured. Structured is predefined categories. It counts. But in unstructured, it is open and descriptive notes. Like for example, the recording, field notes, video, and checklist. So these are kind of unstructured. Now, what is focus group? So it is a moderated group discussion with 6 to 10 participants on specific topic. The process is the moderator guides discussion, participants interact and share views. Then 1 to 2 hours basically typically the focus group discussion takes place, and audio and video are recorded. Advantage is group dynamics reveal insights. It is efficient, multiple participants at once. Participants stimulate each other's thinking. Disadvantage is dominant members may bias, and there is a group conformity. Now, this is also very important. Scales of measurement. Scales of measurement refers how variables are defined and are categorized. There are 4 levels from lowest to highest. So the lowest is basically nominal, then ordinal, in terms of ranking, then interval and ratio. So basically this section is very critical for UGC NET. You will find many years the questions are repeated where you have to arrange from higher to lower level of measurement, or you have to match. So first let us try to understand the nominal scale. So nominal scale is basically categories with no inherent order. Okay. So simply names are label categories. There is no ranking or order. It can only count frequencies. It cannot calculate. You cannot calculate mean in case of nominal data. Like examples are gender, male, female, other, region, urban or rural, occupation, teacher, doctor, engineer, political party, Congress, BJP, AAP. So you can calculate mode, chi-square test. You can do chi-square test and frequencies. In ordinal scale, it refers to the categories with meaningful order, but distance between ranks unknown. Characteristics can rank or order. It know which is higher or lower. Don't know exact distance between the ranks. For example, education, primary, secondary, graduate and postgraduate. So distance is not meaningful. Exact distance is not known. Ranking, first place, second place, third place. Satisfaction, very satisfied, satisfied, neutral and dissatisfied. Like socio-economic status, upper, middle, lower class. So what are the statistics you can use? Median, mode, rank, correlation. Then ratio scale. Okay, interval scale. Then we will go to the ratio scale. Now interval scale is basically, it refers to the equal intervals between values but no true zero. This is very important. No true zero. So then what are the characteristics of the interval scale? It refers to the meaningful order. There are equal distance between the points. Zero is arbitrary. It doesn't mean that mean absence, but you can add and subtract but not multiply and divide. Example, temperature like Celsius and Fahrenheit. So 0 degree Celsius doesn't mean no temperature, right? So calendar years 2000, 2010, 2020, IQ scores, test scores. So 0 is no absolute 0 is or true 0 is meaningful. In this case, you can use the statistics, mean, standard deviation, correlation, t-test with this data. So in ratio scale, equal intervals and true 0, okay, which indicates the absence. Like for example, all properties of interval scale plus true and absolute 0. You can multiply and divide meaningfully. You can make ratio statement twice as much as suppose you are taking two products. If one product is 2 times higher than the other product, you can say twice. Height 0 centimeter means no height. Weight 0 kg means no weight. Income 0 means no income. Age 0 years means new one. Distance 0 meter means no distance. So you can use all the statistical tests possible. In this case, mean, standard deviation, coefficient of variation. Now suppose let's say that to identify the scales. Suppose for example, a cricketer given 10th rank as all-rounder. So basically it is ordinal rank. Students scores 50 marks out of 60 in the test. So it is basically ratio because true 0 is possible, right? Researcher divides sample by urban versus rural. So it is basically nominal. Then building height is double of others on street. So it is basically ratio scale because you can make ratio comparison. So 0 heights are possible. So although the questions, first of all, let me tell you, the practice questions are just tentative ones, where we will be doing in-depth discussion based on the real questions after we discuss the theories. So what we learned today? We learned different research approaches, quantitative and qualitative. In quantitative, we already discussed about numbers, testing large samples. In qualitative, we discussed what's exploring small samples. In mixed methods, which is best of both the world. In sampling, we discussed probability, sampling method, probability based sampling, which is random and generalizable. Non-probability, it is purposive and exploratory. Data collection method, it is survey, interviews, observation and focus group discussion. Measurement scales are basically nominal in terms of lowest to highest, nominal, ordinal, interval and ratio. So some easy, you can say MCQ. Suppose for example, which uses open-ended question, quantitative, qualitative, both, neither. Then simple random sampling is probability or non-probability, both or neither. Measurement scales with true 0. So it should be ratio scale. Sequentially explanatory design, it is like both quantitative, from quantitative to qualitative. So we will discuss more questions on this. So what you can do is you can create comparison table versus quantitative versus qualitative. You can make a proper note. For given research question, decide method, what is poverty rate in India, or how do farmers experience crop failure. Okay. List all sampling method with examples. Practice identifying measurement scales. Okay. And then you can attempt 30 MCQs on research methodology. So tomorrow what we will be discussing is research process and design, steps in research process, research design types and hypothesis formulation. First of all, again I am telling you, we are reviewing research aptitude is a very rigorous unit. So sometimes you have to answer or you have to practice and read also to answer the questions which are coming frequently. So I think day 3 is completed. So what we have discussed, already we know it, right? Tomorrow we will be discussing research process and design. Okay. So now we can discuss further, right? So let us, I'll stop the